Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak-to-Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
Out in the meadow, in tall grass, below the castle, dirt got wedged under our nails when we were little.
Welcome back to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. I'm Cynthia Davis.
And I'm Art DeVitalis. Now for this week's news.
This episode is brought to you by the Mineshaft Restaurant, Mountain Man Outdoor Store, Hardt Tobacco, Brightwood Music, Very Nice Brewing Company, and of course, the Mountaineer Newspaper.
Rather be a comedy than a tragedy in a mask. The calamity of monotony left to those who can't contrast.
For our lead story today, we'll talk to Melody about the Nederland Farmers Market.
I'm Melody Baumhover, and I'm the market manager for the Nederland Farmers Market. The Farmers Market was an idea that had been floating around Nederland for, I'm sure, decades before I moved here. I joined the Sustainability Advisory Board in 2013, and me and another member of that board were really passionate about getting some sort of farmers market started. So we got some other great community members to join up with us. Hickman, who is also now one of our employees, and Lorena James, who is our president, and a few other people. We started Farmers Market, and the biggest hurdle was really getting farms to come up the hill to Nederland. And so instead of getting 5 or 6 farms that were going to host booths each market, we ended up just sourcing the produce directly from them and then selling it at our table for, as cheap a price that we could to keep things going. And that was the way that we were really able to start. And so then our other vendors are cottage food producers that are up here local to the mountains, things like honey, other, kind of pantry goods like that, as well as the local artists, because we really wanted to showcase what Nederland is like, and the art that the community brings to just the culture up here. So we are now an officially established 501c3 organization, so we're a nonprofit, and our mission is to not just host the farmers market, but also just be a community gathering space that can support local business, can support food education, healthcare education, and really provide, a network for our community to grow and become as self-sustaining as we can, at least.
So, what all is offered here?
So we still do that, but we are very, very happy that this year, actually, 2021, will be our first year with a farmer vendor. So we've got Switchgears Farm that has started us, and he wants to grow specifically for the Nederland community and some other kind of small CSA stuff. So the majority of food that's going to be produced on his farm down there is going to be sold at our market and put into the weekly boxes that we're going to sell every week again. So we've got a really great local beef vendor, and we've got a new vendor that came with us just at the end of last year he lives here in Nederland but also works in Alaska part of the year. And so he's got fresh salmon that they're bringing in from Alaska. We've got Mexican food of various sorts. We've got some vegan food. We've got pickles. We've got pies. We've got breads and all sorts of pastries, olives, really good olives and olive oil, other baked goods. And then as well, we've got a lot of good kind of art and other services. So we've got a CBD vendor that'll be there every market. We've got artists with pottery, artists with paintings. We've got a soap vendor. We'll also have mountain health partners and wild bear that will join us occasionally as kind of just informational booths to be there for the community.
And we had to ask about the process of applying for the market and becoming a part of the community gathering like a lot of these vendors have done.
Be a vendor, you go on our website, you fill out an application, and then I take that application before the board, and the board decides whether it's going to be a good fit or not. Right now, we are still kind of working out spacing, the COVID regulations and everything, so we're actually full for definitely the first couple markets. We may be able to open up for some more vendors after that, but we do have capacity to get a few food vendors into our online market if people were interested. I would just say that, you know, it's been really awesome to see the community support since we started the market in 2016. And that is what has just made it grow and blossom and expand is, you know, our customers, our volunteers. So it's been a delightful journey to just watch that unfold and watch us become the market we are today, where we're, you know, turning away vendors because we're full, whereas the first year when we started, we had, I think, 7 vendors and 3 markets.
Right.
So,
thanks, Melody, and we look increasingly forward to the market as things continue to return to normal.
Here's where you can find more online as well.
So the market is located in the parking lot between 1st and 2nd Street there. The official address is 80 East 2nd Street, but most people know it as the parking lot across from Salto, where the big school bus is. The market is held the 2nd and 4th Sundays of every month, May through September. And then we have our harvest market that will be October 3rd. And the hours are 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Yeah, we have a website, we have Facebook, and we have Instagram, so people can like and follow us there and figure out all the happenings. Our first market will be May 9th, so you'll start seeing that kind of promo stuff going out soon on social media. Please share with everybody that you know. NederlandFarmersMarket.org. And there you can find all the information about us, about how to volunteer if you want to volunteer. You can find out how to be a sponsor if you want to sponsor us. You can apply to be a vendor if you want to be a vendor. You can contact us for any reason. And then we'll also have set up shortly a way to go through our online ordering process for folks that still don't want to shop in person. You can shop online.
To the news desk.
The High Country Auxiliary is holding an in-person silent auction to support their local first responders. The event will take place May 15th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Gilpin Arts Museum. For more information or to purchase your tickets, check out highcountryauxiliary.com.
In 2010, the town of Nederland adopted Vision 2030, a planning document where, through community feedback, Nederland identified goals for the town to accomplish over a decade, and that was 2010 to 2020. As Nederland heads into the next decade, the town is seeking to develop the Vision 2030 action plan. Through the month of April 2021, the town will seek feedback from the community on the vision statement, goals, and objectives that have been identified by the Envision 2030 Advisory Committee. Please visit the town website to learn about the 9 different ways you can provide comments.
The Mountaineer newspaper is working on senior profiles during all of April and May. If you are a high school senior, please reach out to us at publisher1977@gmail.com for more information. We have our student interns and staff reporters to help create your story for this annual celebration of graduation.
The Mineshaft restaurant offers modern comfort food with a southern influence. They're located at 35 East 1st Street in Nederland and can be reached at 303-258-0649. You can also find them on Facebook at The Mineshaft Nederland.
Gilpin Arts presents an exhibition by the Colorado Watercolor Society. The 30th annual state show runs from April 15th through May 24th, 2021 in Washington Hall. Hours are 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Thursday through Sunday. The hall will be open 7 days a week starting May 1st from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and is located at 117 Eureka Street in Central City.
Free COVID tests are available at the Nederland Community Center every Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. No appointment or ID is required.
Gilpin County has COVID-19 testing at Gilpin County Public Health Office, 101 Norton Drive, every Thursday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can sign up at www.primarybio.com. Please pre-register prior to your arrival.
And now we'll head to Dango Rose for an interview with Carl Cole. Take it away, Dango.
All right, this is Dango Rose with the Mountaineer Podcast. Everybody's listening. My guest today is Carl Cole, author, musician, tour bus driver, and many other things, a longtime friend of mine. How are you doing, Carl?
I'm doing great, man. It's good to talk to you, Dango.
It's good to talk to you, too. Carl and I have been on the road together off and on for almost 20 years. I guess.
Yeah, 20 years, yeah, exactly.
And
I mean, that Jazz Fest was 99.
Yeah, I know. Wild. Oh, my God. I'll never forget that Paul Simon concert.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. We were the youngest kids in there, surrounded by people sitting in their chairs. I remember Paul being so appreciative that we were dancing that he sang the, when I think back on all the crap I learned in high school, line twice.
Maybe he just forgot.
I took it as a sign that he saw us just like we saw him.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was a life-changing moment. Yeah, we had a little street trio that we called Further Evolution. Drum and bass and a guitar player we picked up somewhere in Colorado. Can't remember.
Fort Collins. He's gone to the ether as far as I know. I haven't heard anything out of him in 20 years.
Was his name Ian?
I think it was. I think you're right. Oddly enough, I remember his email address was inflatablecircus@hotmail.
That's great.
I've tried to email him. It goes nowhere.
So, Carl, you and then we reconvened many years later, and you ended up driving the tour bus for Elephant Revival.
Yeah, absolutely.
And got involved with a tour bus company that our management agency started called Peak Touring. And
yeah, at the height before COVID, we had 11 tour buses. We were working with clients as varied as Thievery Corporation and Leftover Salmon to Trampled by Turtles. We had a rap group in there once. We did
String Cheese, right?
String Cheese. We did them. We did a Jamaican reggae group with like 16 people on the bus. The driver was losing his mind.
Man,
but yeah, I started out driving Elephant Revival, and then at the end I was, dealing with all the drivers of all these buses and solving all their problems just from my home here.
Yeah, how cool that, so a lot of our listeners don't realize, but in Boulder County, Colorado, we had one of the national tour bus companies that was pretty much becoming at the level of the national ones out of like Nashville, Tennessee. And
yeah. And we wish we could have been in Boulder County, but we couldn't afford it. We were in Commerce City.
Oh, right. The buses were, I guess, just the home office of.
Exactly. Yeah.
Was in Boulder, but we're not going to rent garage space in this county anymore, huh?
I don't think so.
Commerce City, the best smelling place to live in Colorado.
Yeah. Sandwiched between a dumpster fire and a refinery, literally.
So what was it like back in March 2020 when the industry shut down? What was it like for a tour bus company?
It was insane, man. I mean, I was used to receiving phone calls at all hours of the day and night on any matter for any issue that could come up on tour. I solved an amazing amount of problems, and that, I can't even describe all of them. I found lost band members in the middle of the night by tracking them down via telephone,
with like a GPS tracker?
No, like once you travel the country, go on tour, attend shows, you start to put things together. You know how everything interconnects. So when, the bass player from a particular band disappeared, when the driver was ready to leave, my first phone call was to Sancho's, right across from the Fillmore. Sure enough, he'd been there. Sure enough, the person he had left with, they had their phone number. So I ended up on a phone call with somebody who didn't know me that put this particular bass player on the phone, and I was able to tell him to go get on the bus. The driver's ready to go.
Yeah, because
but the phone calls I started getting around mid-March, early March, we weren't prepared to handle. All of a sudden, everything was just stopped, and all the buses turned around and came home.
Yeah, what was that like? I mean, it was probably something that I don't think.
It was surreal. It was surreal. It was very surreal. For a while, I was able to get lost in the mechanics and the details and the logistics of it all still, because bands were trying to fly home, tours were getting canceled, we were rerouting coaches to go take band members home or all over the country, So I remember it as Friday the 13th in March being when everything stopped and everything turned around. And I spent about 2 weeks still kind of busy until the last bus quietly creeped in home, and then my phone quit ringing. Everything just quit happening. Within the company, people were talking about a 6-week break, and I was being a pessimist in saying that I didn't think we would get rolling again till August. And everybody thought I was crazy. No way, it won't last that long.
Yeah, wow. And now here we are, April 2021, vaccine rollouts. Now that's to the general public, some people taking the jab, some people not.
And we haven't had a tour. Our buses have sat. Some of them we don't even own anymore. We went from 11 down to 6 now. I mean, there's not a company in the world that can withstand a year of no income.
Right.
I mean, if Walmart shut all their doors for a year, they'd be broke by the end of the year.
What do you see occurring as the machine starts getting rolling again little by little with regard to bands going on tour? Do you think it's going to happen in the same way again?
Well, from our perspective as a tour bus company, we're going to be the last ones to go back to work because there's going to be one-offs, there's going to be festivals, but to string together a 6-week tour requires, every venue in a different town has a different COVID regulation that affects whether or not a band can play there. So, we're not going to be seeing long, extensive tours for quite a while. Not that I can see.
If the tours were only in Texas.
Sure, but at that point, you can't do a 6-week tour in Texas. That's cost effective enough to rent a tour bus. I mean, they're not cheap. They're not cheap to move down the road. It's hard to find competent people to work on them. They're not cheap because they are so skilled, So we're going to be the last aspect of the touring music industry to get to work again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just slowly creeping back now. And even the shows now, we're looking at, if they're inside, it's limited capacity. We don't know if there's going to be the whole vaccination passport thing to even get in the venues, and then even the outdoor capacities are at a quarter, usually at a maximum. So how do you actually turn a profit for the larger scale acts, right?
Right. What I would like to see happen, though, is like during this break, some of the companies larger than us, there's companies that own 100+ tour buses. There's maybe, I think the last estimate that there was somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 of them in existence touring the country. It's time we could change that. We run these generators to generate electricity. We plug into 50 amp shore power circuits at every venue. I'm just surprised that there's not been the technology to turn touring entertainer coaches into an electrical operation.
So has Elon Musk been working on that? I remember before the
I
pandemic.
know he's doing the truck thing, for the freight truck, but I have not heard tell of buses. And personally, I've always thought that entertainer coaches would be the best place to break into that technology, because a lot of entertainers, let's face it, they have a lot of money, and the ability to offset the economic or the environmental impacts of their tours. I'm sure your Taylor Swifts and your Dave Matthews out there would be willing to pay a premium for a tour bus that ran on electricity, didn't generate the carbon.
Part of the green entertainment evolution.
Right. Now, me as a ex-driver in a small company, all I can do is suggest ideas and hope the right people hear them. So, thanks for the podcast.
Yeah, right. I'm so curious. It seems like this should be happening somewhere, and I kind of wonder.
Yeah, it seems a lot easier than building a rocket ship.
Right. And what's more important, going to Mars or having live music?
Right. I think after a year of silence that, Mars can remain silent. We need to keep the noise here on our home planet.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Carl Cole. Check out his book at lulu.com. Feasting on the Breeze, right? And the Melody of Motion.
The Melody of Motion, yes, sir.
This is Dango Rose with the Mountaineer Everybody's Listening podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to sharing this all again as we move on.
Thank you, Dango and Carl, for the insight from the entertainment industry perspective.
Mountain Man Outdoor Store carries new and used outdoor gear, Carhartts, Loki, Darn Tough socks, hats, gloves, goggles, helmets, t-shirts, sweatshirts, and more. They have everything you need as a Ned local and everything you didn't know you need when visiting Ned from afar. Check them out at 20 East Lakeview Drive, Unit 111 in Nederland, or give them a call at 303-258-3295.
Community champions have been announced. For all of April, we'll highlight all 18 nominees in the Mountaineer podcast. This week, it's government volunteers, educational excellence, and nonprofit awards.
First up, we recognize Jonathan Baumhover as a government volunteer. Jonathan is a board member of the Nederland Board of Trustees. His commitment is of great significance due to the time he's taken and assiduous efforts he has put in order to strive to enrich a sense of the purpose in our community. As Mayor Pro Tem on the Board of Trustees and as a member of our community, he's pledged to help support our town's environment of family engagement with an enthusiasm for future progression.
Kurt Abendroth is up next. Kurt is the manager at the Nederland Community Center. He treats every individual that walks through the door with dignity and respect. He does so much work behind the scenes to make sure everything runs smoothly, from the COVID screening to planning for the vaccine distribution to managing disputes in the weight room. The unseen work he does could be an endless list. He is always cheerful and ready to assist any individual. It is one of those roles where if he wasn't there, then we would know how much he does. He is encouraging and kind to every demographic and expects nothing in return. It is just part of who he is.
Next award is presented to Miranda Fisher, Deputy Town Administrator or Town Clerk. She's worked with businesses across town so that they can easily navigate through the ever-changing public health orders due to the pandemic. She's built positive relationships with business owners, managers, and employees and has been a huge asset to them during COVID-19. She can remain professional and calm despite the tricky times. Congrats to Miranda Fisher.
As well, we honor Rick Ellertson for educational excellence. Mr. Ellertson had a vision and established the CTEC program at Nederland High School.
And also for educational excellence, Brenda Theodorakis and Tammy Forrest at Nederland Elementary School. They've both been teaching at Nederland Elementary for over 30 years. Together, Tammy and Brenda have given over 60 years to educating Nederland's children. They've taught a wide variety of grades, but in the last several years, they've taught 5th grade. This is their last year teaching, and the hole they leave at NES will be profound. They're a model of professionalism, teamwork, and teaching experience. They deserve community recognition and thanks for all the days and all the years they've dedicated to the community's children.
In the nonprofit category, all 3 nonprofits nominated will also receive certificates for excellence in our community. The nonprofits are Teens Inc., Ignite Adaptive Sports, and Peak to Peak Players.
Next week, we'll honor our Lifetime Achievement recipients. Visit Brightwood Music in Nederland for repairs to your stringed instruments. They'll restring, clean, and test your 6-string acoustic guitar for $15, plus the cost of your choice of strings. Brightwood Music is family-owned and operated and has been a Netherlands staple for over a decade. They're located at 20 East Lakeview Drive, Unit 109 in Nederland, and can be reached at 303-258-8863 for more information. Find them on Facebook at Brightwood Music.
Hardt's Backhoe Service is your locally owned and operated excavating company working in the Peak to Peak region. They can take care of all your excavating needs, including septic installation, digging your new foundation, rock walls, construction demolition, and so much more. Now scheduling summer and fall projects, you can reach them at 303-589-9354 or find them on Facebook at Hardt's Backhoe. Peak to Peak musicians and artists, we're looking for you. Would you like a feature story in the Mountaineer? We cover all news of the Peak to Peak, including business and artist profiles. We also offer features on our podcast, website, and social media. Right now, these are all completed through email with our journalists. When things open back up, it will be in person. We are your community newspaper. Interested? Just email publisher1977@gmail.com to get on the list for upcoming editions.
For our final story today, we talked to Annette of the Last Stand Tavern in Golden about where the pub came from, the food, and, of course, the drinks.
Sure. My name is Annette Lambeth, and my husband and I are the owners of Last Stand Tavern. I spent 30 years in the field of education. I actually retired just a few years ago, and I have my doctorate in educational leadership and supervision, specifically relating to education, working mostly in the central office. My prior position was the executive director of student support services. So my doctorate is in the field of education, and I totally switched gears when I retired. Last Stand Tavern is my retirement hobby. So it's been quite a hobby. Probably the hardest I've ever worked in my entire life, but the rewards are wonderful in that we've met some really great people. We've had some really fun experiences, some good, some bad. Definitely pushed myself and my husband outside of our comfort zones from our professional fields to open up Last Stand Tavern. The story behind it is, it goes back to when we lived right outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. My husband was an avid, or still is an avid, beer brewer, and he would brew all sorts of beers and enter competitions, and took second place in a pretty large competition back in Pennsylvania. Turned our basement of our home in Pennsylvania into a huge bar, and, you know, just had a place to hang out and have Christmas parties and have other, you know, family and friend events in our basement. And so we called it, at that time, we called it Last Stand Tavern, but it was really in the basement of our house. It wasn't anything official. It was really just a place for events and celebrations and so forth. So when we moved out here to Colorado and we decided that we wanted to venture into the restaurant and tavern business, it just kind of made sense that we would call our legal business Last Stand Tavern.
So that's where the idea and the couple's backstory literally comes from. But what about the food?
The food is representative of where we're from, which is Pennsylvania. Tom is a native of Pittsburgh, and I'm a native of Philadelphia. So we represent Pennsylvania with our Philadelphia cheesesteak, which is kind of my favorite sandwich. And we use Amoroso rolls, which are made in Philadelphia. And we use Philadelphia cheesesteak meat, and we use Cheese Whiz on our Philly cheesesteak. So cheese on that Philly cheesesteak because I want it to be as authentic as possible. We also have pierogies, which are very much of a Polish item, which kind of represents the coal mine region of Pennsylvania, where pierogies are very popular. And then to give a shout-out to Pittsburgh, we have a Primanti Brothers style sandwich, and it's a huge sandwich. Comes with French fries, provolone cheese, pastrami, coleslaw, and tomatoes all on one sandwich. So it's an art to build it so it doesn't fall apart, and then it's even more of an art to eat it so you don't get it all over, your your mouth or all over yourself, because it does kind of squish out from the side of the sandwich. That represents where we're from, and then all of the items on the menu are named after various sports teams, since we are a sports bar. And we do give a shout-out to the Broncos with our Bronco Burger, Fangio Burger, which is a Build-A-Burger because he's building a team, so we named a burger after him. Our more popular items really are the Philly cheesesteak, and then we also have a really delicious Reuben.
Of course, the menu isn't complete without the drinks.
Yeah, so we have 16 taps. They're mostly craft beers. We do have a large representation of Breckenridge Brewery. We have the staples, of course, our Coors items, our Coors Light, and we do try to switch the taps up in the summer so that our flavors are going to be changing a little bit. So they're ever rotating. Different ciders we'll put on, different summery beers are going to be coming up. Over the winter, we really like to go with those darker beers. Very popular one would be the Moose Roll dark beer, but it's quite tasty. And then we have bottled beers and canned beers that kind of lend itself more towards beers that you really can't just buy anywhere, but you can find them here at Last Stand Tavern. We have our gluten-free beers. None of those are on tap, but they are in cans, and they're from Holidaily, right here in Golden. Then we have our gluten-free hard seltzers from White Claw, and Bud Light makes a hard seltzer. And then we have a variety of wines, and then just various mixed drinks. Again, our mixed drinks we try to name after patrons that come in and, come up with this concoction, and then we'll play around with it and come up with a drink. So we have some personalized drinks on there from some of our friends and customers, and one is named after a Broncos player who frequents our establishment on a regular basis, so we named a drink after him. His name is Austin Schlotman, number 71. He's a lineman and great human being. He just got married, and his godfather lives up here in Coal Creek Canyon, so that's how we met Austin, and he's a big fan of ours, and we're a big fan of his, so we honor him with a drink.
But best of all, she gave us some history and fun behind the tavern here, and thoroughly thanked customers for their support.
So I think when, as I said, my husband and I really ventured out of our professional careers. My husband was a builder-developer and contract negotiation for building military installments on the East Coast. And then, as I said, I was in the field of education, specifically special education. So we really stepped out of what we knew and knew best and opened up a tavern only because we wanted to, one, push ourselves into an area that was unknown, and we really liked this location. We felt like we could give back to the community in a different way other than when we had our careers. We were always doing stuff in the community, but it was very different. We opened up the tavern here with the intent that we wanted to also support the community, because the community, if it wasn't for them, I don't think we would have survived COVID. Our locals, our friends that live up here in the canyon really kept us alive, and really, we were able to maintain during COVID, and thank God for them, or we would have ended up shutting our doors. So we give back to the community in doing fundraisers for the school. We'll do fundraisers for the CCCIA, the Coal Creek Canyon Improvement Association. We've done fundraisers for the fire department. We've done fundraisers for some people who are struggling with medical bills and wanted to host a fundraiser here to raise money so that they could pay their bills. And probably our claim to fame, if you will, or our pride is that we do an annual poker run since we've opened, and we raise money. All proceeds go to the American Cancer Society, and it is in memory of my husband's brother who passed away from cancer a little, over 10 years ago. And we now also support other poker runs who are doing fundraisers for combat vets, or they're doing it for their churches, doing it for, other causes that are local. And we really take pride in that, in hosting these events, because every one of these poker runs are for a really great cause, so we feel really good about that. But, those are just we've had some fun times, we've had some really trying times, but overall, if we were to do it again, I would say we definitely would. We now know what we didn't know when we first opened, and I think that's always a learning experience. And I just can't thank the community enough for welcoming us and keeping us open during really, really difficult times.
Thanks, Annette. And here's how you can see more for yourself.
I have a very active Facebook page. I'm always updating on Facebook and Instagram. And we do have a website, laststandtavern.com. I mostly keep the Facebook page up to date, so that's a really good way to find out what live music we have on the weekends, karaoke, or when the poker runs are coming in, and how they can support those causes. So I think Facebook would be the best bet. Last Stand Tavern. We're all trying to get back on our feet after a very trying year, and restaurants and bars and taverns have certainly taken a big hit. Not that everyone else hasn't, but I think we've taken the hardest hit because our overhead isn't a lot. So we rely on every penny we can bring in. So support local.
Then we get dollars sprayed in the collar, learn to lament. If you can't sit still to feel unfulfilled, suddenly you're less than.
And that's all for this week's episode of the Mountaineer Podcast. All editions of the Mountaineer Podcast are available online at www.themtnear.com.
Pick up this week's edition of the Mountaineer in print.
And go online to themtnear.com to catch up on more local news. I'm Art DeVitalis.
And I'm Cynthia Davis. Until next time, thank you for listening.
To those who can't contrast.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local peak-to-peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.